what I'm going to do is just do a kind of a top-level dive. This is the new business you are in. You're in the identity resolution business, guys. So it's important to understand who are the players of this, who you're going to be asked about, who to watch, et cetera, et cetera. So we're starting to put this information together. Sales team, I'm doing a deeper dive for you at the Sales Summit, but this is just an overview for you guys to understand the buckets and the players, because you know there are a lot of people that are coming to the table with this stuff. And you know, here's Axiom. They just recently bought LiveRamp, which is one of the biggest players in the identity space for marketing. They talk about their match data. You have Newstar, who's purchased towards this, and Identity Matters, you know, talking about messaging and getting it to the right people. You have different ad networks that are trying to get cross-channel. Even the attribution systems are realizing that you have to be able to match the people to really get the journeys and analyze them the right way. And then there's even people just popping up out of nowhere. Here's somebody, never even heard of, someone sent it to me, Ryan, that seems to do something along this lines. And here's the TapAd article, actually. So we're seeing a lot of folks trying to get in here. And I'm going to just kind of stop for a moment and kind of present the technology adoption curve. I don't know, Nick, have you ever seen this? Yeah. So this is a model that's kind of a standard bit for product companies to talk about how their technology is being adopted. The percentages are basically about, you know, what percentage of the market would be in there at at any given time. And so we'll go talk a little bit about these. So the innovators, and if you think about where like TMS is, you guys, phone guys can't see, but I'm kind of pointing to like around the late majority, end of the early majority, beginning of the late majority. That's kind of where TMS is. Where we are still the innovators and early adopters phase, arguably. And you know, innovators, those are the folks that are risk takers. They're willing to fail. You know, they have some need, they're going to fix it. They're not going to sit on their hands. They're the folks at these different companies that want to be first, that realize there's a competitive advantage to be first. No risk, no reward kind of folks. The early adopters are ahead of the game, and they'll help you sell it in to the rest of the organization. They'll find the pieces to it that make sense to them and kind of spread the word in order to get this done. Their majority is really where the major opportunity lies for any technology. This is where the average Joe is, or Joanne, is ready to kind of hear and listen and take this in. They will take their time, you can't push them. If they have been risk takers and super liberal, they would have already jumped in. So they are a little bit more conservative. But they don't have to know everything. They're still in the early majority. They know there's something valuable there. And if they feel right about this technology, if they feel it's the right time to pull the trigger, they will. Versus the late majority that are kind of feel like everyone else wants to, you know, that they kind of have to do it. You know, they're reading articles in Ad Exchange, or they're going to conferences and people are saying, you gotta do this, and they're like, fine, you know. But they're gonna be dragging their feet. You gotta really convince them still in order for them to be comfortable. And then you have the laggards that are really the folks that kind of are just, if you know that they're a laggard, you may as well just pass if you're a salesperson, because they're just not gonna take chances. They may be willing to hear you, but they're just not into it. And you know, in especially marketing technology, you know, I heard a lot when I was a buyer, you know, everyone wants to be second. Everyone wants to be second. Everyone wants to see someone else do it and hear that company did it well for them before they're willing to take the plunge. So it's a very important, it's kind of a tipping point. And things, there's different messaging that'll resonate with different groups at different times of the adoption curve. But it's just an important one, whatever business you're in, whatever company you work for, you know, this is kind of a standard model, and it's a good one to kind of understand. So what am I seeing, you know, what are we seeing here? So, you know, this category, whatever it's going to shape up to be, the EDMB, the Enterprise Data Management Platform, or the identity category, it's definitely ahead of the market. And when you're in this type of market, it's a wild west, you know, it's misinformation. People can say almost anything, and as long as they stay with a purpose and they come with some credibility, people believe them. But really, no one really knows how it's all going to shape out, which is why we're here in 2015 kind of repositioning where we were confused. You know, we thought, hey, we got this great toolbox, just show the toolbox and people go, oh, I can make a cabinet, I can make a table, I can fix my wall hangings. What we realized was that's not enough to sell this kind of technology at scale, that we really have to do solution selling. So we have the opportunity now to define ourselves. The opportunity here to set the standards of what is and what's important, this is huge. If you can do that, if you can be the first one in there and really set the buyer's mind, everyone else who comes after you has to kind of be challenged by that. We saw that with TMS. The salespeople could almost tell who that prospect had talked to previously by the types of words and types of questions they were using. Because, oh, this is Insight, Insight has been in here, because they're asking me X, Y, and Z. But what we need to be doing right now is build this credibility, get a good story, get our marketing going, have a good talk track for the sales team. Looking kind of up. It's my daughter. I'll give her another. She's home alone, so I'll give her another one before I answer that. If something's on fire, we'll have to see. This is an emerging category. You know, there are some big, that's one of the main differences, especially with TMS. With TMS, there were 3, 4 folks and we were all doing it together. With this category, we are going against some big names with some big dollars that already are installed in a lot of the big advertisers that we'd like to go to. So it's going to be a different type of sell, it's going to be a different type of approach. We have to be really on our game from a marketing perspective, sales perspective, to really get in there. And then different vendors, as we talked about, are taking different approaches. So, you know, these are just some of the vendors. This kind of landscape will change over time. I'll do one every half year or every quarter.
Did you make this, or is this both?
No, I made this.
Sarah shout out?
Sarah made this.
Well, I don't know if this was like something that they already did, like someone was already out there.
No, but I was hoping to make it look professional enough.
It does. It looks like it could have been.
Thanks to Sarah. And thanks to Nick for pulling the logos and everything. So it's definitely a team effort. And I polled some people. You know, I made my initial list, showed it to some people. I've already actually gotten a few back that aren't in here, that need to be in here. Like Apple's not in here in terms of stacks and et cetera, et cetera. But there's different folks. We're going to go into each one of these buckets really, really quickly. And then if you, after this, but if you plot them with the horizontal axis being company size, so the further to the right, the bigger the company. That's why Google and Facebook are there. Further to the left, fewer people, smaller company. The vertical axis, the higher it goes up, the more overlap is to our offering. Not how much we overlap them, but how much they overlap us. So, for example, Axiom's right at the top. You know, what we say we do, all of our key points, they say they do, as well as about 1,000 other things. So we don't overlap them very well, but they overlap us a lot. And then the color of the boxes, the category, and the size of the bubbles, how often we're going to see them. So Google, obviously, we see them almost at every advertiser. Facebook, almost at every advertiser. Telium, top left there, not so much. Axiom, they're out there more. Maybe Adobe could be a bigger bubble. This is a living document that I'm soliciting feedback from all the time, and will change as we learn more and more.
Oh, can you go back? One of the things that I think Sarah might have brought up, or Sarah might be on the phone now. Someone brought up in the last training was where's LiveRamp? And one thing to note is that LiveRamp's factored into Axiom on this one.
That's right. And then if you really kind of want to segment out about who we should be watching, that's what this is for. So our core direct rivals are in the middle. There's 6 of them. And then it moves out in different rings. Once again, Sarah, great job on the visual. And for example, the ones on the fringe and the lightest gray, like a Salesforce, IBM, those are people we should kind of just keep our eye on. I mean, they're on the fringe now, but they may move towards the center, or they may not. But it's important to notice that it would make sense for a Salesforce or an IBM to eventually move this category. They're building their stack, and they have a lot to offer, and this is a core component.
One thing we noted last time too was that everybody on the fringe, a lot of those people are people that we actually work with. So if you look at IBM, they're an endpoint receiving the data feed for Craft. We have SwiftIQ, Blue Kava, a couple of these people are integrated into the tag management solution. So it's similar because we're telling very similar stories, but we're going about it in two different ways. Like oftentimes those people on the fringe are doing the visualization aspect, where we're doing the collection and emerging aspect. So those people on the fringe are definitely potential partners. So that's something to know.
Keep talking, let me just check about it.
It's like Segment.io is also one that we've done an integration with. If you think about the ones that are right in our bubble, you see Adobe in there, you see Newstar in there. I mean, if you think about it, Signal plus a data visualization vendor such as Splunk has the same offerings as Adobe, right? So it's just Adobe who offers it holistically. Yep.
All right, so let's just kind of dive into these. I'm sure most people in this room have either a working knowledge or even a deeper knowledge of some of these things, but let's see how they're entering into this new identity space. So the DMPs are really the ones we're gonna have to watch. They see themselves as the central nervous system for marketing data. We think we're better because we position those folks as really built for banner buying, built for the programmatic space, not necessarily to power personalization or attribution or even to feed the big data projects. Yes, if you want to, put all your stuff and your audience segments in one place, they're a great piece for that, but we actually have a better story for the data management side as it's shaping up than some of these DMPs do. And then you have data companies, I should put Adobe in the DMP space again, but Acxiom, Experian, they've been at this for a long time. Experian has this huge, customer data warehouse.
So Experian the one that does the credit score?
Yeah. So they know all your purchases, they know all sorts of things about you. And, Acxiom and Experian, they've been selling for decades because customer data solutions, even before the internet was around. So they believe that if it comes to identification and customer data, they're very big, and they do have a good story to tell. They didn't necessarily build their technology for this, which is one thing we can say against them, but what we're really gonna have to do is pick them apart one by one. We're gonna really have to arm the sales team with specifically why Acxiom is, not as good as us, why Experian is not as good as us.
Ryan, have you seen any conversations that involve any DMPs, like in your pitches or anything? Acxiom, Adobe, Experian.
Yeah, so like US Cellular is using Acxiom, but they got in at a client, at the client level because they were already managing their CRM, so when they evaluated DMPs, they just looked at their offering.
Got it.
Yeah.
Pretty sure that
These players are established.
Yep.
yeah.
So you have the giant stacks. Who can connect customer IDs better than Google, Facebook?
They're doing it right now.
They're doing it as we speak. Exactly.
They have to check the sheet
But
now.
our story exactly. But our story is that these guys don't want you to necessarily, the marketer, own your data. In fact, there's a competitive advantage for them to hold on to that data as long as possible. They want to use it so that it makes their advertising more attractive and they can drive more media dollars. They have this proprietary data set no one else has, and they're going to hold on. You're going to have to pry it out of their cold dead hands. The DSPs like MediaMath and Churn, they rely on this targeting, and as more customers and more consumers are using more devices and on more channels and more browsers, and marketers want more offline data onboarded, they're going to have to build single view solutions, and we know they are building single view solutions for their suite, for their kind of walled garden. One of the things is that it's not going to be a hard story to tell, but they have all these things to focus on. That this identity thing, they're just really going to check the box right as of now. They just don't have the time, the expertise, and we got a 100+ person company just focused on this, and it's going to show. Some of the measurement attribution managers as well. I moderated a Visual Analytics Association panel in December where Visual IQ got up, and instead of talking about attribution, which is what they're known for, they talked about identity and how that's really their core differentiator from the other attribution vendors is that they have an identity solution. And of course, when you're going to be measuring, cross-channel impact, you need to know that it was the same customer who engaged from different channels. So they're building out these solutions, and Domo would love to build out solutions. And our kind of track to that is, they're just thinking about how this data affects them. They're not really thinking about how to spread the data around the ecosystem. And so they're really not the guys to bring in to be the core identity platform for you.
Also, one thing to note there is like, what if Visual IQ does a great job for, let's say, Sears. You know, they saw the attribution. They're able to do a great job, a lot of different insights. Well, the next step is Sears wants to activate on that cross-channel data, and then the story stops. Visual IQ can't help them do that. We have a tool that's ready and waiting for when clients are ready. So that's a huge differentiator with us.
It's more waiting. Standalones such as Segment, TapAd, Drawbridge, these are these like kind of, we talked about TapAd a bunch here, they kind of popped up to serve this gap. There's a gap in the market, there's always going to be a gap between when the need first starts to arrive and when a lot of players reach the market, and TapAd's done a good job of getting ahead of this and doing cross-device media buying.
These guys operate on insertion orders, a campaign-to-campaign basis. They're not going to do year-long contracts, 2-year-long contracts. That's a key differentiator there.
And they want you're basically buying media with a data solution behind it, and they want you to rent as much. They want to charge you, 20 times for 20 campaigns instead of one time. And they're approaching it in different ways. TapAd uses probabilistic matching, which Nielsen says is 91.2% accurate, which is not bad, right? But they're all kind of moving at it from different ways. They're really just doing a quick land grab, trying to make money now before the market turns. And then finally, we have a few other ones. We have like the tag management systems like us and Scientelium that are evolving their business models to be this. The social login folks, if you go to GigGiz's homepage, they're the ones saying that because they're enabling social login across the web, that they can truly track you because you're authenticating yourself across all these things. And then, like I mentioned, IBM Salesforce, they're going to have to do this. Maybe they want to, buy us. I'll sell them Tomas for a hamburger and $10.
$1.95.
I think OMD, I think one of the holding companies, owns Salesforce, and they've actually done a solution where they allow their clients to share Salesforce data within kind of a closed system. So everyone's moving towards a similar solution from all these different ways. So it is important for us to keep an eye on everybody.
So we went through these before, but really what the key is for us against all these folks is that we are aspired to say that we are mastering all 8.
We've done the practice with each one of the categories that Josh pulled up, DMPs, single solutions, all this stuff. Not all of them can do all 8. And we've really pushed ourselves to try to give them the benefit of the doubt, and not all of them can do all 8.
Yeah, our closest competitor, which would be like Atelium, can do 6. So, maybe somebody is better at being private, has better privacy built in, or someone else.
Extra neutral.
Yeah, we're on extra neutral.
Extra medium.
From my team's perspective, what do you see? So audience stream, they push that. I haven't really seen. I just really haven't heard a lot from them lately in terms of that. They used to push it hard. I mean, what do you think they're?
It's still the focus of their business at this point. It's just like us. They're leaving TMS behind. Audience stream is the focus. Everyone is an audience stream customer at this point, just like we're trying to make everyone a Fuse customer, meaning on paper, Fuse customer, on paper, an audience stream customer. They have 12 integrations that we know of, deep integrations with like ExactTarget and some of the other big folks. So in some ways, they're a little ahead of us. Like Connections to Action, they're doing a little better than us, but in other ways, they're not as good. We actually going to go deep dive and get some materials for next week.